2021, the CCP basically banned all private tutoring because, I mean, on the surface, it was this kind of equity thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, I think also they accused the industry of being very corrupt.
Right.
So,
Which,
you know,
I mean,
possibly it
I wouldn't
probably
be
was,
surprised.
but like every industry is very corrupt. So,
but it was also like $100 billion industry that they just like shut down overnight. And so a lot of people lost jobs, and a lot of parents whose kids were like relying on these tutors to help get them.
This is what Chris is talking about, right? Like suddenly it's back.
Right.
Like suddenly it's like, oh, we need more private tutoring because maybe these young people can.
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Well, what I read is that it's actually, there's been no, what is it, the Reuters said, that there has been no formal acknowledgement of a change in policy, but there is now tacit consent from policymakers to allow the tutoring industry to grow, which is worse, right? Because it's kind of like they're letting it happen, but they're not officially saying it. So they could just pull the plug
again
at any point, or they could pull the plug on a particular. It opens the door for more arbitrary enforcement.
I mean, I think this
recourse.
is what the tech industry should have learned in China, right? When also there was that sudden massive crackdown on tech companies.
Kind of starting with Jack Ma disappearing.
Yeah, I mean, not just Jack Ma, but like the whole.
It was across the board.
It was across, and just in general, the idea that there needs to be more regulation, more state control. We can't have this runaway, like
private
industry.
Well,
even though
that's not the super efficient Chinese meritocracy system.
Though these private industries were always controlled, and I think that, well, have we talked about this? That one of the reasons that this is probably happening also is because a lot of there are a lot of CCP officials who made money in these private industries, like in tech, right? I think we did a China Uncensored episode about this a while ago, but some of them were in the faction that was against Xi Jinping. Right, so like this factional infighting within the CCP can spill out. Like the Jiang Zemin's son and grandson, right? Like both had lots of business interests that were then in real estate and tech and stuff. That like that's one of the many reasons that these things are targeted, or specific companies are targeted.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with the thing itself. You're just kind of slaved to the whims of the bureaucracy that's in charge.
And that infighting among the CCP officials, it's like it's it's not stable. There's a lot of instability.
Yeah.
It's not this gleaming meritocracy and I think that's why zero COVID was such a blow to the image of the CCP abroad, because you had Shanghai, right? This incredibly cosmopolitan city. That's the one that, they show to like Western officials and businessmen to be like, oh, look at how wonderful it is to do business in here, right? Like, look at how wonderful it is to do business in China, in a city like Shanghai. You should definitely move your company here and all your money and, invest it here. And then they're locked down for a month and no one could go anywhere, and like it was a huge blow to their image.
Yeah, I mean, the big issue with China from an American perspective is that there were so many experts with their expert opinions who were like, this is what we need to do. We'll invest more in China. It'll make them become a democracy. It'll help the U.S. economy. And, you got to listen to the experts. Anything criticizing them is not a good idea, should be censored. And they were completely and utterly wrong.
I mean, I think it wasn't an accident, right? Like the CCP has spent decades trying to influence the experts.
Yeah.
But also people were naive about the nature of the Chinese Communist Party and this kind of post-Soviet afterglow.
Yeah, the end of history. Yeah. Like there was a lot of arrogance about liberal democracies.
Like, everybody wants to be like us.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than that these are, very bougie values that are not universal. You're lucky to have these.
Right. But of course, like, we've taken this great opportunity, and that is the people who have more power in this country, have increasingly, instead of making China more democratic, they've adopted Chinese communist principles for how to manage things. And I'm not saying that these people are communists. I'm saying they've just seen some of those individual things, and they've brought them over, the massive security apparatus, the censorship, the fake equity, and they're just bringing them over and seeing them as good, without critical thinking, or they're just like super cynical and they actually see what's all going to happen and they're using it for their own gain. But I'd like to think they're just stupid.
I was reminding me of the episode that we just did of the podcast interviewing Kelly Curry about the UN. Did you guys see what happened to that episode on YouTube? Because I think the title was something about China's ushering in a new world order with the United Nations. And underneath it is the Wikipedia article for New World Order. That is like, it's like one of those, remember when we would do stuff about COVID and there would constantly be those like little blurbs underneath?
They still do that for certain
Like the World Health Organization is blah, 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 right?
So it was one, but about how the New World Order is a conspiracy theory. So because you had used the words New World Order, not talking about that New World Order, but about China actually making a new world order. We got the little Wikipedia conspiracy theory disclaimer.
That's good. Otherwise, people might get a misinformation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's also like censorship is so pervasive that like YouTube has just designated bots to go and like find search terms, right? Like had a human watch that episode or that clip, like it would be so obvious that we weren't talking about that new world order, and we're in fact talking about China's new world order.
It's also like on Facebook. Like if people search for China Uncensored on Facebook, they get a warning of like, are you sure you want to proceed? The keywords in the search term have been associated with sexually explicit things.
Yeah, Chris, you made a mistake all those years ago naming the show China Uncensored. You should have thought of, something.
And there's like no human I can talk to be like, hey, that's not what this uncensored means. Please stop trying to discourage people from finding us.
It's just like these little bits of censorship on every platform all the time.
And China Uncensored is basically dead on Facebook now.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook is basically dead in my opinion, but yeah.
It's pretty meta.
There we go. Nice.
We find the humor in it.
Yeah. So we had like 10, 20 different things to talk about, but I feel like we've gone in a very different direction than I anticipated.
But it was very, internally consistent, I think, in the messaging about it. I liked it. Predictions on who's going to win tomorrow?
No.
Chris Christie.
Oh,
yeah.
How did I not see that's where you guys were going?
I don't know. You just don't have a vision of the future.
Like Chris Christie.
Yeah. I want to put out like, I've been debating on this. I want to put out like America Uncovered's projected winner, Chris Christie. But I'm afraid that might get like me in trouble for like misinformation or some kind of election interference.
Oh yeah. Right. I don't think you should do that before the election.
Right. I mean, maybe people.
But then it can't be projected winner.
Right. People who have not been watching America Uncovered don't know the whole thing.
Oh, that's true. That seems really weird if you haven't.
People are like, wait, you're going to write in Chris Christie? Like, no, that's not the joke.
When you have to explain the joke, I feel like the joke is over.
Yeah.
But essentially, there's a running joke about Chris Christie on America Uncovered.
America Uncovered's choice for
our officially endorsed presidential candidate.
What was the line?
Despite him not running.
Yeah.
Just because he's not running doesn't mean he can't win or something like that. Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah. Good thing we came up with it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, oh man, the next couple of months will be wild in this country.
Yeah, I kind of feel like whichever side wins it is.
No matter who wins, we lose.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I just think it's going to be pretty crazy.
It's going to be crazy.
Unless the winner is Chris Christie.
I mean, that would just like everyone would like stop for a moment and like not be able to process how to move forward.
Because currently it's after tomorrow, only half the country is going to stop and not be able to move forward.